Hello there and welcome to Unqualified Opinions. I'm your host as always, Marko Jerkovic, and today we'll be doing some European transfer talk, and joining me is Joseph Arena. So let's get straight into it with some of the confirmed transfers. First, a really big one as far as Barcelona is concerned, Arturo Vidal is headed to Inter Milan.
Yeah, I think this is a really strong signing for them in the immediate. It doesn't seem to be like it's going to be a long-term move, though. He is getting up there in age. I believe he's 31 years old. So I don't see him being there for very much longer. He is a very strong physical midfielder that Antonio Conte typically likes. He's going to be joining the midfield of Perisic, Barella, and Brozovic. And I think that personally, this is going to be a direct replacement for Vieira, who was playing in the central midfield role for Inter a lot last season. It's going to be interesting to see how the three of them play, being Brozovic, Barella, and Vidal. I believe Perisic will play out on the wing. It's kind of interesting to see Brozovic and Vidal are very similar. They play very physical, and Barella is more of that attacking mindset. So I think they'll be sitting right in front of the defense, almost as a sweeper in the midfield, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I could see Brozovic and Vidal operating as a double pivot in that midfield, like you're saying, as two defensive midfielders. I do think it's a bit questionable, like you said, making this move right now, considering his age and considering the potential talent Inter could have coming through those spots he could be taking up. So let's move on to the next one. We have Gareth Bale returning to Tottenham. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think this could be a really, really good idea. When I first saw it, I thought it was going to be a transfer, and I was a little iffy on whether it was a good idea. But seeing it was a one-year loan, I think that's really smart on them.
Is there an option to buy on that loan?
I'm not sure. I should have done a little bit more research, but I think it's just a one-year loan. They might have, with transfers nowadays, there seems to always be an offer to buy, or an option to buy. But he is 31 years old. He's returning to Spurs. He loves it there. He played very, very well there back in the day. And his talent is definitely still there. He's a phenomenal player. He showed his talent at Madrid. It just seems to be that he's been hampered by lots of injuries. And hopefully for Spurs, he'll be able to play a lot of games, get a lot of minutes, and show them that he is still one of the best players in the world. I think that most likely he will take Lucas Moura's spot and play in a front three with Son Heung-min and Harry Kane. And I think that is a deadly front three. If Gareth Bale does play to his potential, this is a team that definitely should be looking for top four.
Yeah, and there is certainly a potential there, but considering how tight the top four is in England, it's maybe a bit far-fetched still. But on Bale's side, I like to see that he's making this move where he can get more play time. Real Madrid since, and even before Cristiano Ronaldo left, he's kind of been in the doghouse with Zidane for the past 3 or 4 years, and he's been very underutilized. Who knows if his form has fallen off or this has just been good for him health-wise that he hasn't played as much, but it's been very strange to see such a world-class, high-potential player be so underutilized over the past few seasons. So maybe we can finally unlock him with Mourinho and see what he used to be. But he could just return to his bench form in Madrid where he's been for the past few seasons. And then another big one we have to talk about in the Premier League, Thiago leaving Bayern Munich after winning the treble. He's headed to Liverpool for around 20 million euros.
Yeah, I think that what this really does is it takes Liverpool and their midfield and takes them from, they were a pretty good to average midfield last season.
Whose
with
spot
Keita.
does he take, though?
Gini Wijnaldum. I think that it's definitely him. Henderson is the captain. I don't see him being replaced, even though maybe he might be the weaker of the three. He is the captain. He's Liverpool through and through.
Right.
I think he can't be
And Liverpool
replaced.
has a three-function midfield where one of the midfielders tends to stay back and attack and kind of act as an anchor. One is more box-to-box and active defensively, and one is more attacking and very, active in the high press with the front three. What role do you see Thiago filling? Obviously he will end up playing multiple, if not all of them at times, but where do you see him slotting in more often?
Well, given that Keita tends to play more of a attacking role. I see him being that box to box. You definitely touched on it. He can play anything. He can be the defensive playmaker. He can play the attacking role. But I think that in this, play style, he's going to be that box to box, at least for another season until, hopefully they don't. But you would assume that at this age, his legs would start to go. So I think that right now what this shows the rest of the world is, I think that the Gini Wijnaldum sale is going to be happening pretty soon. I think it's a realistic thing that's going to start to, get some rumors.
And that's certainly something we'll end up probably covering here in the next few weeks, as there's just under 3 weeks until the end of the transfer window for most of the major 5 leagues and all other leagues. The cutoff is, for most leagues, mid-October, so we'll be covering transfers for a few more weeks. And just one last one I want to get to before we get to the rumor section. It's a bit of a strange one. It's a free transfer of Gonzalo Higuain to Inter Miami. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is much less of a gain for Inter Miami as it is a gain for Juventus, honestly. Losing another forward who I'm going to speak about later, but they have a lot of forwards on their payroll right now. And Higuain just was surplus to requirement and wasn't going to be getting much game time. I don't think it was smart to keep him on, so they got rid of him. They terminated his contract and sent him to Inter Miami, where he can go and play with Matuidi, his
another
former teammate.
Juventus player.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, if we're going to look at Inter Miami, we don't normally talk about the MLS very much on here, but when you look at that roster with Higuain, Matuidi, and Juan Agudelo, I think they definitely need to make the playoffs, and I think they realistically should push for a conference finals appearance.
It'll be interesting to see how productive Higuain is, how motivated he'll be to play. But you touched on the most important point of this. It's not that Miami got him for free, and it's not that he's going to be super impactful to this team, although I think he still would be quite productive. It's that Juventus got him off the books. That was really important. So now let's move into some of the rumors. Why don't you just run down a few you have and I can give my reactions?
Yeah, absolutely. Number 1, Danny Ings to Spurs. What are your thoughts?
Well, obviously he's a high usage guy with Southampton, and I think they can find a spot for him, to be quite honest with you. Mourinho, he's more a possession-based guy, slow and methodical in the attack. And I doubt he would ever move away from a 4-man defense. But if he moved to a 3-man defense and then slotted Ings in as a center forward behind Kane, Ings is really not built to play out on the wing. So you'd have to pair him in a 2-man striking group with Kane or put him in behind. But I don't see Southampton selling him or him wanting to sign with Tottenham, knowing he'd be on the bench a lot of the time. He would need at least some type of a rotational role in the starting lineup. So I don't know if I see that happening.
See, the thing with Danny Ings for me, he is one of those players that when you think about, he's kind of a cult favorite in the Premier League, where he played for Liverpool back in the day, and then he went to Southampton, and last year he did phenomenal at Southampton. This season, even though they've been pretty poor, he's been playing all right, and I think he's one of those players that just plays for a lower to mid-table team and stays there and does well. And
penalties removed, he was the Golden Boot winner without penalties, because he wasn't the primary penalty taker for Southampton. His goals per 90 was 3rd in the Prem. I mean, he's a phenomenal player. Not to say that he's the best in the Prem, which he's not, but he's a solid player. So I mean, again, the thing is, Tottenham could use him, but do they need him? I'm not totally sure, especially given what we spoke about earlier with the Gareth Bale situation.
Yeah, I think that if he is going to leave, if he is going to go anywhere, I don't think that Spurs are the team that need him, per se. So it's not necessarily about him going to Spurs. It's about Spurs not necessarily needing him. So next up, we've got the American Serginho Dest to Bayern.
So there's been a lot of discussion about this over the past few weeks. Bayern has been in contact and has been the only team in contact with Ajax Amsterdam over the past few weeks about this potential transfer. There is some news in the past few days about Barcelona, Ronald Koeman trying to swing in and get this guy from a Dutch side that, he knows very well. But I think Bayern will most likely secure the transfer. They'd really like to have a young, very pacey fullback behind Pavard, especially considering they might put Pavard more at center back if they like his fit there. And they could have a new, really speedy fullback pairing with Alphonso Davies and Serginho Dest. I think the likelihood that this transfer goes through is pretty high, whether it's to Bayern or to Barca. His services are definitely required by both teams. Your thoughts on who could get him?
Yeah, I think it's one of those two. This really is a signing that's reminiscent of Alphonso Davies, where he came in and didn't really have, the world. He didn't set the world alight immediately. He took about a year to develop and get used to the system, get used to the coaching and everything. And I really see Dest being the same way, where he takes maybe a year, maybe 2 years even, to get acclimated with the Bundesliga, get acclimated with the team, and really earn his spot in the starting 11. So I think that maybe not this year, maybe not even next year, but this is going to be a good future signing if they keep hold of him. Next one is kind of a interesting choice by Juventus. They've been linked recently with Edin Dzeko and Alvaro Morata.
I don't see any reason to do this. I think you almost touched on it earlier as far as the surplus of Juventus forwards. And do I think Juventus is playing a really inefficient formation for the players they have? Yes, but they're sticking with that formation, and so they need to build around that. And there's no reason to add more strikers, or at least, forward, type players. They really need to focus on maybe, getting some more players in defense if they're going to continue to play 4-back, or even move to their more traditional 3-back with the wing backs. I just don't see this as a necessary transfer.
Yeah, seeing what they did this week, I'm looking at the lineup that Pirlo started with, and having 3 at the back with Chiellini and Bonucci there, that made a lot of sense, and hopefully De Ligt will slot in once he's healthy. But, beyond that, they've got Danilo, and I don't.
They need a center back or two.
They absolutely
for sure.
need another center back to help them out if there is an injury like there is with De Ligt right now. So, I think that this doesn't really make any sense. It does seem like Alvaro Morata is confirmed, according to Fabrizio Romano, who is just amazing when it comes to these transfers. But, when you go through, they've got Ronaldo, Costa, Dybala, Bernardeschi, Kulusevski, Cuadrado, who does play as more of a wing-back, like you were saying, but still he can play as a forward or winger, and Morata and Dzeko if they do get them. But I really think it only makes sense to sign one of them, if any of them. So, yeah, moving on with that, if Morata does leave and go to Juventus, that would open up another spot at Atletico Madrid, and they are looking to sign Luis Suarez. So what do you think of this signing?
See, well, for one, I don't think this will happen in the first place because Morata was just signed this summer by Atletico Madrid from Chelsea for 60 million euros. Unless Juventus is willing to nearly double that, which I don't know why you'd pay upwards of 100 million euros for Alvaro Morata, a very serviceable striker, but nothing more than that. This doesn't make sense to me, so I have very little belief that this would occur. I also don't think if Barcelona were to let Luis Suarez leave, that they would let him go to Atletico Madrid, because this is completely their decision as far as things go. But I still don't think this makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that if he does sign, it would be a really cool thing to see, him, Diego Costa, and João Felix working under Simeone. I think that those 3 forwards all just kind of fit his system. João Felix a little less, but the two, Suarez and Diego Costa, is just a match made in heaven for Simeone. So I think that would be a really good signing for them. And I think, honestly, they would be able to challenge for La Liga with Barcelona being as weak as they are, and Real Madrid, if they focus on the Champions League again, which they typically do. I think this could be a really open year for Atletico Madrid if this signing is made. So, yeah, that's about it for rumors.
Well, again, this is kind of a first of these individual transfer talk videos. We'll continue these until the end of the transfer window, And if big rumors pop up sometime in, during the fall or the spring, we'll definitely cover them. We may bring this back also kind of during the winter time, but expect a few more of these videos before the major European leagues end their transfer windows in mid-October. Joseph, thanks for joining us. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your own unqualified opinions in the comment section down below. Again, I'm Marko Jerkovic, and thank you so much for joining us.